Hey guys, Linda here. I have another vlog for you today, and as been the theme for the last couple ones, I am sticking with Saint Therese. She's just been my sister lately. Yes, she's been with me and we've been hanging out and she's been teaching me and all the great things that saints can do in our lives, all of our lives. We can have this incredible interaction with them. So she's been my girl lately. So I have a quote I want to read to you by her. So here we go. It says, "I understand now that charity consists in bearing the faults of others, in not being surprised at their weaknesses, and being edified by the smallest acts of virtue we see them practice." I'm going to read it again because I'm not an auditory person. Maybe you're not. I'm going to read it again. "I understand now that charity consists in bearing the faults of others, in not being surprised by their weaknesses, and in being edified by the smallest acts of virtue we see them practice." Now here St. Therese was living in a monastery with a bunch of other women, and she said this statement after having volunteered to spend a year working alongside one of the sisters who was known to be pretty difficult to get along with. And she learned that what really a deeper understanding of what love was by being around this woman all the time. I don't know, I do think that showing love and charity to our family, to those who are closest to us, is far more difficult than showing charity and love to those not in our family. I don't know, maybe I'm unusual in this, maybe this is not the case for most people, but I think it's true, and I think the reason why it's harder to show love and have compassion and mercy and patience with those in our family around us all the time is that they just wear us thin. We get tired of dealing with the same crap all the time, the same issues that our loved ones might have. Of course, not that we don't have them, but you know, from our perspective, we get tired of dealing with the same things over and over again. It's one thing to have a stranger do something, and because it's not a regular interaction with that person, maybe you have a greater tolerance of their imperfections. But when you're in close-knit situations like family, we just become less patient with other people's imperfections. You know, in fact, according to this, looking at this quote, bearing the faults of others, we don't bear their faults. We can't tolerate usually the faults of our family members because we just get tired of seeing them all the time. It says here, not being surprised by their weaknesses. We're not surprised by the weaknesses of our family members. We see them, again, all the time. We almost expect them to fail in a certain way because we understand them so well. And then being edified by the smallest acts of virtue we see them practice. I don't know about you, but sometimes I judge so harshly those in my family, and I think that those smallest acts of virtue that I see in them simply isn't good enough. I want them to change more than they are. I want them to be better than who they are. I expect more of them because simply it's exhausting living in family and tolerating each other's weaknesses. Now I'm saying this, of course, knowing fully aware that they could say the same thing about me. They can get totally tired of my weaknesses, totally tired of my lack of virtue, and not think that any virtue that I make, any progress that I make is not good enough. Totally. But in this case, it's amazing to me for how this quote spoke to me because I am such a brat. I am such a jerk to my husband. I am a jerk to my children. I'm a jerk to my sisters and to my other family members, and to even those who are closest to me in work situations or whatever it is, that I can be such a jerk. I'm so impatient. I don't bear their faults and their weaknesses. I don't overlook their weaknesses that well. I don't get edified in their smallest acts of virtue that they may be practicing. I just want them to be perfect. I want them to be better. This quote to me is a mirror for me to show how far I have to go in my love for others. But you know what, on a positive note, what this quote showed me, I took this quote today and I sat with it in a devotional, my contemplative time with the Lord this morning. And as I'm reading this, yes, it was a mirror. And in a way, it brought me a conviction on my life, on my heart, to say, Linda, you really screw this up all the time. You don't do well. You don't do good at this at all. You don't love your family members well enough. But yeah, that was there. But what I really felt was the Lord speak to me and say, Linda, this is my love for you. That this is the way this is the kind of love that the Lord has for me and for you. He bears my faults. He's not surprised by my weaknesses. And he is edified. He takes joy in the smallest acts of virtue that I practice. That is the Lord for you. He is not surprised by your weaknesses. He bears your faults, and he rejoices in any positive step toward virtue that you take, because his love for you and his love for me is perfect. Absolutely perfect. Let's soak in that for a while. The Lord is not, oh man, this is a lesson I'm getting from him lately, and I'm so excited to learn it. He loves me so fully, so perfectly, that my faults and my weaknesses and my lack of virtue don't surprise him, don't frustrate him. He's pleased with any positive steps I take in virtue. And he wants to be with me. He wants to love me. He wants to fill me with his love. And it's from that filling of his love and his understanding of me that I can go and I can love my family. I can improve it and love them and do all these things for them, because I understand that love that the Lord has for me. So rest in that love today. Know that the Lord loves you so fully, that he bears your faults. He's not surprised by your weaknesses, and that he rejoices at any act of virtue that you take, that you practice. Have a good day, guys. Love the Lord and love your family.